Yeah.
Welcome back. This is Billy with Coach Dooley's List, and today we are here with Claudia Cooper in the catching lab, which is really, really cool place to be. And again, I always tell everybody right at the beginning, if you are enjoying these videos, then like and subscribe to the YouTube page. And today's episode is brought to you by Elite Sports and Embroidery out of Duluth. If you are still in need of gear for your team, player packs, or even just some shirts to celebrate the season, please get in touch with Chris and his crew, and they will take care of you. So, Coach, I appreciate you having us out today.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And so, Coach, I always start and just let everybody know kind of how you got here. Okay, I know you're coaching softball at Dacula, and you're also got Coops catching, but how did it all come to be? What's your coaching journey been?
So I graduated from NC State in 2010, and my head coach asked me if I wanted to kind of stay in coaching, and I was a student assistant at NC State for 2011, and then decided that I didn't really want to get into college coaching, so I came back home. My old hitting instructor was kind of getting into being a parent, so she kind of gave me a few kids to get started, and the lesson business started rolling, and like I said, about 2012 is when I really started. And then started a travel ball team about 2 years later. I was a head coach for a travel ball team for 6 years. And then lessons were still rolling. Started teaching at Dacula and coaching at Dacula in 2021. And I'm starting my 5th year at Dacula now. So here we go as an assistant coach. So
well, catchers do always make the best coaches. I think we can agree on that.
Yes, they can.
Yes. And I know you've had a couple different stops. Like you said, you're coaching the high school, but you've also been a head coach for a travel program and also running lessons. So you kind of see really all different sides of it, which I think is really cool. So with coaching your travel ball teams, you kind of come up with your philosophies, before the season. What did you want your travel ball teams to be known for?
I wanted them to be known for being good people and good teammates. Right. So, in travel ball, as you get older, the absence of kids it happens a lot when they're going to graduation parties, they're doing everything. And so we would have to sometimes pick up kids to play a tournament just to get some reps in. And so knowing that I'm bringing in kids to play for a weekend, I wanted those kids to feel welcome. I wanted them to feel like they were comfortable. They could come in and play and not have to worry about personnel or playing with different people and feeling uncomfortable. And it really showed in one of my seasons. We went to, a nationals with 5 pickup players and ended up getting 3rd with 5 pickup players. And you don't really see that. You don't see that camaraderie happen that quickly. So my kids now, they're great teammates in their jobs. They're great teammates in their careers that they're starting with and the schools that they're going to. And I think that's speaks volumes for what we did back then. So
no, and I love that you bring up how they are now, because that is really one of the coolest things for me is seeing former athletes and them being successful as adults and seeing some of the things that you worked on as a coach and seeing them put them into their actual real life. So so in all your years, it could be high school, travel, or even here in the lab, what's one of your favorite coaching stories, something that brings a smile to your face?
Well, I've got a few. For the lesson side, it's got to be with my girl, Kendall Wells. She's going to Oklahoma in about a month. Just a tremendous athlete. Everybody in Georgia knows who she is. But when she was 12 years old, she had a cannon. She could sling it, but had no control over it. And I remember being in the parking lot, and every time she overthrew me, I made her go sprint and go get it. And so she'd sprint and go get it and come back, and then she'd overthrow it again, sprint and come back. Well, we threw for 30 minutes straight because she couldn't figure out. And then she's 12 years old, right? So she couldn't figure out how to hit me in the chest. And every time she's sprinting back, she's crying. She's probably going to kill me for telling the story, but she's crying.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Ken's going to love it, so it's fine. And I see Ken, and Ken's over there just kind of covering his mouth, and he's laughing. And she's running past Ken, and she looks at her dad, and she goes, "I hate her. Never coming back." And, we get through the lesson, and afterwards she comes over, she goes, "Thank you." And she gets in the car, and Ken looks at me, and he goes, "That was great. Do it again." But then, about, 3 or 4 years later, she's a sophomore or junior in high school, and we go out to the field and we're throwing, and she takes a few throws and she overthrows one, and after she threw a couple that were good, she just took off to center field and went and picked up that ball that she overthrew, and I was like, "Did you realize you did that?" She goes, "Yeah, I guess old habits die hard." So that's a really good one from lessons. But then just from coaching in general, I think I had switched over to going into high school ball, and I switched over because my travel ball kids were talking about how they loved high school more than travel, and I was intrigued. I'm like, okay, why? Like, what's the big deal, right? And so I go in. I came in my first year under Kelly Poff, who's now the athletic director at Secondary. And I was a community coach, just kind of dipping my toes into it. And we had a scrimmage for our very first game. And I remember being there, and the first inning was so electric. Like, we had the stands were packed, the girls were screaming. I mean, the energy you felt was something that I'll never be able to probably recreate. All that, it was just amazing, and it was just a scrimmage. Yeah. And for me, I was like, wow, this is a scrimmage, and this is the energy that we feel. I mean, this is what softball's about, and I was hooked from then. So that hooks me into high school, and Coach Burford has kind of kept that legacy going on, and I love coaching with him, and I love being at Dacula, and I love coaching high school, and it's a grind of a season, but it is truly kind of an unmatched energy that you can't create anymore. So it's awesome.
Oh yeah, and going back to both, like I said, and you know this, you got to know Kendall at an early age. I actually coached her little sister went t-ball, and was very fortunate early on to get to know her, and then obviously coach her for 3 years in high school. And if you have not seen her play, you make sure you turn on the TV next year. Actually, I know she just won one of the national awards for Player of the Year this year, and I actually responded to Coach Dillard's post. I said she should win every award that there was. She should have won some last year too, but in talking about, high school, and they all have their benefits, and there's always, downsides to both. But yeah, that's the thing. I think one of the big things, like you said, with high school is the fans are there. Yeah. Where with travel, it's good and you're playing elite, but a lot of times it's just the parents. Yeah. When you start putting teenagers into the stands who are friends with them and who start getting excited about stuff, yeah, it definitely makes for a cool atmosphere too. So, and all your kind of different stuff, again, I'm going to ask you a couple different pieces of advice for all that you can give. So first off, if you had somebody come to you and say, Coach Coop, I want to be a head coach, whether it be a travel, high school, anything, what piece of advice would you give them?
I'd probably give them the advice of delegate as many things as you can, because it's really hard to take on that role and see all of the things that you have to cover to make a really successful program. And I think that's where good assistants, good support, good parents, good everything around you and delegate that as much as you can. So you can focus on what's really important, and that's building relationships with those kids, and that's helping them grow in anything that they want to do, and developing your team, right? Because at the end of your career, they're gonna remember you as the person you are and the coach that you were. They're not gonna remember that you drug the field every single time, or you had the concession stands running. Like, they're not gonna remember that. They're gonna remember what you taught them. They're gonna remember that day they had a bad day at school and you were there for them and you listened to them and you built that relationship for them to be able to come and talk to you about that. And then of course you can push them on the field. And I think with girls, they gotta know that you love them before you can hold them accountable, right? Before you can yell at them, before you can expect a lot out of them. And as a head coach, you can't pour in that love if you have a laundry list of things to do every single day. So if you have good support and good assistants that can handle and you can delegate that stuff, then you're not only being a better head coach, but your whole program in itself is just going to get improved and be better. So
I think that's a life lesson too.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, you've got kids, and I sit there in mine, and I tell them all the time, like, guys, if I want to do all this stuff, but if you would help, we could get to the pool quicker.
Yep.
The same thing on the field. Like, guys, hey, if you can line this and you can do that, we can get done sooner. We're all happy. We all get to go. But I think that's great. So now if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'd love to start doing lessons, maybe eventually open my own lab or my own facility and do those, what's a piece of advice you would tell somebody before they just jumped into it?
I think you got to ask yourself the question of, like, what kind of instructor do you want to be? Do you want to be an instructor that trains elite athletes? Or do you want to be an instructor that works with, rec departments? Or do you want to be an instructor that has kids that come in and you just get them to the goal that they want to be? And I've been around both sets of instructors, and they're great instructors. They're great coaches. They're great people. They're great communicators. And I think that I know that if you're going to dive into just training elite athletes, you may not have as many people, which is fine. That's totally fine, because you're building a reputation for yourself. And then know that if you're training athletes that probably aren't super, super elite, but they just want to get better every single week, you're probably going to have more. And then you can start diving into the philosophy that you're going to have of the type of instructor that you want to be. And then the other thing is, like, get out on the field. sometimes when you're in the cage, you become a cage rat. So if you're hitting, you're only focusing on fundamentals, and then you forget, like, hey, sometimes in a game, you just got to make an adjustment. You got to get on time. You got to get barrel ball. You got to hit strikes. You got to hunt strikes, and sometimes you forget that when you're in the cage. So don't be a cage rat. Go out and help with a team on a practice one day, or go watch a travel ball game. So you get back in that game setting where you're teaching your kids now how to make game time adjustments. So, and, I think as a hitting instructor too, the biggest thing that I see that kids struggle with is they can't take their cage swing to the game. And I think that if you put yourself out on the game and you see your kid that's in your cage go out there and hit, then you can start making connections, and it's just going to make you a better instructor. Because there's times in season where I'm not talking to my kids about fundamentals. We're talking about pitch selection. We're talking about strikes that we're hitting. We're talking about the zone that we're trying to hit in. We don't even talk about elbow slot or hand spot. We're not talking about that kind of stuff, because you're in the game. If you're not on time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you got to be on time. So
if you're talking about sequencing and how your hip and your elbow and all this stuff moves together, and there's two strikes in the bottom of the seventh, like nothing's going to compute at that point in time. But I love what you said too about getting out on the field. Back when I was a head coach, I loved it when I saw the instructors would show up to the game, because it has to translate. And if you're just giving lessons to a kid, and this is my advice, if you're just giving lessons to a kid, you never see what they do. Maybe they can't hit a change. Maybe they can't lay off the rise. Maybe they have a good approach to it, but their hands are whatever. Okay, but if you see that on the field, your lessons become that much more valuable. Or even catching, and kind of leads me into my next question. If you can't see, you have a lot of great catchers here on the board, and I know too. I'm not going to say her name, but we work with my cousin's kid who's in 7th or 8th grade.
9th grade.
She's going into 9th grade. That's right. Yes, and I need to call them.
Big university over there in Buford.
Yeah, and but so working with kids that are going Division I, or you're working there. What do you think it takes? Your focus is catching. You were a great catcher in high school, and obviously D1 at NC State. So if somebody said, "Hey, I want to go into catching. I really want to focus on it," what are some things you want to see from somebody who says they want to become an elite catcher?
I think you got to have that mindset. You got to kind of be a little crazy. You got to kind of come in here and be like, all right, hit balls at me and let me throw my body in front of it. I think you also have to get in the weight room, and you got to do some speed agility. Quick catchers make great catchers. I've had a lot of catchers that are bigger in size, but they've done the speed and agility. They've done the footwork drills. They're getting that extra work, and it makes them quicker back here. So all of the weird movements that we have to do, the blocking, the knee down, all the things, you have to be flexible, and you have to be pliable, and you have to be quick. So adding that into it is helpful, but then know that when you come in here, it's like, we got to work, and I'm going to throw some balls at you, and I'm going to sit here with a bat, and I'm going to beat them at you. And you got to be able to have your mindset and be like, listen, I'm throwing a body in front of a ball. I got to do it. And I get that a lot with young catchers. They come in here and they say, I can't block. And I go, all right, well, you got to get your mind right. Because what I'm telling you to do is probably one of the most unnatural things to do in sports. Is a ball in the dirt, and I'm telling you to put your body in front of it, which makes absolutely no sense, and it's awkward. But you have to do it to be a catcher, right? Not just a good catcher, a catcher. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm getting at now is, like, some of my older kids have graduated and they're moving on, and then I'm getting a new round of catchers who are 10 and 12 years old, and they're learning about how to block, how to receive, how to get as low as you can, and also, like, establish a good throwing strengthening program, because you throw more than anybody on the field, even the pitcher. So even if you throw correctly, your arm is still going to get sore. And I think that's what separates elite catchers too, is when you get to a higher level, they can teach you how to frame, they can teach you how to block. But if you don't have good arm care and you can't throw anybody out, then you're stuck either being a hitter or you're going to play in a position. Because when you get to college, everybody can frame, everybody can block. But if your pop time isn't what it needs to be because your arm strength is not good or your exchange isn't good,
you get exposed very quickly.
And you lose that spot pretty quickly. So just seeing the kids that I have, putting them on an arm care program. We do an arm care training program here. Some of my athletes do. They come in, they warm up, they do some med ball work, they do some sequencing movements with throws, and we really break down the throwdown. We really do. So it's exchange stuff. It's pop time. We have ball flight time that we measure. So it's something that separates a lot of catchers from from good catchers is the ability to throw people out, because it's hard. Throwing people out is a really hard thing to do. I remember seeing a stat on TV, and I think, don't get me wrong, but I think it was a Georgia Tech stat, and their percentage of throwing people out was like 45% of runners that were thrown out, which looks low, but that's really good.
That's impressive.
That's very
really
impressive. And they have a great catching staff over there. But like, just knowing that it's that hard to throw somebody out at the college level, like, it's a really hard skill to do. And if you don't take it seriously and fine tune some stuff, then you're going to be stuck sitting the bench or playing a different position. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So.
Well, and you know this too. There's so many factors that go into it. You got to deal with the hitter. Okay, you got to deal with the pitch. I mean, your footwork can't be the same on one here as it is there. Your shortstop. When you have somebody that has a cannon like she did, and throwing it, I think, don't get me wrong, about 75 miles an hour, the ball travels differently than somebody who's throwing on average 58 to 60, which is what most normal people probably throw. Right. And so, you know, all of those things go into it. No, I love that you bring that up. When I first started coaching, Coach Pierce, I remember he said, we got to the end of a couple games in the summer, our first year together, and we kept talking about the catcher. We kept talking about the catcher. Usually when you're talking about the catcher after a game, it's not for good stuff. Yeah. And then we went with another kid, and then we realized about 3 games in, we're like, we haven't spoken about him in a couple games. That's our guy. You know, that's who needs to catch, because, you know, if they're not stealing, balls aren't always going to the backstop. Like, there's no defense for that. Yeah. You know, and so, no, that's all good information there. And I almost forgot to forget, leads me into my next question. I am loving this right here. Cooper's Catching Corner, 2011. We're going on year 15 here,
wow.
getting close.
Wow.
And put some perspective to it. No. Listen, what year did you graduate high school?
2006.
Okay, so I was already in my 4th year of coaching at that point in time, in high school.
Audra Thomas was my high school coach.
And where?
East Paulding.
I did not know she was over there before. Mm-hmm. I met Coach Thomas when she was at South Gwinnett, and we became very good friends. And also one of the most phenomenal people I've ever listened to talk about catching.
Oh man, yes. Like, anything you want to elevate your catching list, go call Audra. She'll do it. She's awesome. She like grew me. You know what I mean? Like, I've known Audra since I was 8 years old.
She's one of the best.
She is the best human being on this planet. I love her. She's amazing.
Yeah, love her to death. Coach Thomas, you better watch this, okay? And you better text both of us in a group text as soon as you see this. And it better not be a week from now. I know she does adventures. She could be off gallivanting around the world right now in an RV, but she could be. So, but I think she's kind of found a home again. But but yeah. So hey, we want to hear from you. I'll bring you lunch. All right.
I won't. He will.
I'll bring it. But no, listen, and I love this, and I appreciate this, especially the catching stuff. So I always ask coaches, you know, one of the big things about the website is trying to connect coaches with vendors, trying to make their life a little bit easier. So who's somebody you've worked with before that you just love to work with and you'd shout out to another coach?
As far as coaching or?
Oh, sorry, about vendors. Like, okay. It could be anything you ever had to buy.
So I used to work there, but, you know, John Stewart's Elite Sports in Lawrenceville. He can do any of your uniform stuff, any of your spirit wear, any of that stuff. His store, his business is top notch. You're going to get the best price. Got to go there for any spirit wear. That's where all of my shirts are made. All the uniforms. He's been in business for, I'm not going to date him, but a long time. But he is the best in the Gwinnett area. So if you get a chance to go out there, go check out John's place. Okay.
And I will decipher. I know this episode was brought to you by Elite Sports and Embroidery in Duluth. This is Elite Sports in Lawrenceville, right by Sparkles, the skate place. Mm-hmm. And I have used them too. John and Kelly are phenomenal. I've used them, and one of the best things, like both of them, is they print things in-house. So you don't have to wait. And I'll give him a shout out too. You don't have to wait. He's going to call you and say, "Hey, it's ready," and you can go grab it right then. And it's usually a lot quicker than having to send it off and worry about when it's coming in and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I totally agree. So, well, Coach, listen, I could sit and talk to you all day about catching and everything else, but I won't keep you. I know you've been in high school practice this morning. She's got lessons coming in soon. Mm-hmm. It never ends.
It doesn't. No, you're right.
Then you'll head back to school in 2 or 3 weeks.
It's gonna get busy again. So
Yeah.
it's okay. We're excited. We're excited for our year this year. I think we're gonna have another good year. So
I love it.
love it
Well, I'm
too.
excited for y'all. So, well, Coach, thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Awesome.
Thank you so
Appreciate you.
much. Loved it. That was good.
All right.